is Ella, and I'm 10 years old. I'm one of the millions of children born to parents suffering from the sheeple virus. Symptoms include the inability to think for oneself, the attention span of a goldfish, and a strong belief in government and the mainstream media. It is estimated that 1 out of every 2 children are being raised by parents infected with the sheeple virus. But there is a cure. For as little as 19 cents per day, you can become a TFR supporter and help children like me get their daily dose of truth. Together, we will make sure every child has protection from deception.
He was saddened to hear it. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. That's what President Trump said after learning British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been moved to intensive care after being diagnosed with COVID-19 10 days ago.
Best wishes to a very good friend of mine and a friend to our nation, Prime Minister Boris Johnson. We're very saddened to hear that he was taken into intensive care this afternoon, a little while ago.
Johnson is 55. His office says he is conscious. Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab is set to take over if he becomes incapacitated. California Governor Gavin Newsom offering help to other cities in the form of ventilators.
500 ventilators from our cash will be sent to the national stockpile to be immediately distributed to states in need, particularly the state of New York.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo had said earlier today the state is using all its ventilators beyond their capacity. The governor of Wisconsin overruled by the state's highest court in his effort to postpone tomorrow's presidential primary.
Wisconsin's spring election will happen as originally planned Tuesday after the state Supreme Court blocked Democratic Governor Tony Evers' executive order to push back the vote by 2 months. He says out of fears of the coronavirus.
There's no shame in changing course to keep people safe and, quite frankly, to save lives.
Though this just days after the governor admitted in a tweet that he did not have the authority to stop the election, rather that it belonged to the Republican-controlled legislature and Evers, who up until the 11th hour pushed forward with a Tuesday vote. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot is pledging an aggressive public health campaign aimed at people of color. The city's black residents account for 72% of deaths from the virus, despite making up only 30% of the city's population. America is listening to Fox News.
God help us all.
Successful
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
The wicked ones obviously under heavy Masonic influence.
Astronauts to the moon.
Ten, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Not to get off track here, but I feel like we're in the Truman Show and we're in a snow globe and we just shook it up.
Welcome to reality.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Jeranism Monday Night Raw, the current, reigning, defending, unarguably the number one show on Truth Frequency Radio. It's on Monday nights, 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific, 9 to 11 Eastern. I'm your host, Jeran from Jeranism. Joining me is also from his quarantine near New York City, Dave Weiss. Dave, have you been allowed outside today?
What was the last thing? Am I allowed outside?
Are you allowed outside? Did you take a walk today?
It was a beautiful day today. I did take a walk. We are allowed outside so far.
You didn't get arrested for sitting on a park bench?
No, I saw that, though. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, I saw that. All right, we also have joining us Jason Lingren. Jason, nice to see you again.
Hello.
Thank you for having me back.
And we also have Crow. Crow, you on with us?
I am. How you guys doing? And by the way, it might be a constitutional violation to put someone on house arrest.
You think?
Maybe. Could be. We're looking for a scholar, so we don't have to act like we know things.
Okay, good. Yeah, find a constitutional scholar. I'm not one either, but I'm pretty sure that is against the Constitution. But who's following that anymore?
Nobody, but that's one of the things that needs to change in our world, because in times like this, we don't have the wherewithal to make something new up. We need to uncover the things that exist, the things that are practical and workable, and might not be a popular thing to say, but the religious traditions of this country are what founded the founding of the Constitution, and the only reason we don't have a Constitution right now is because of 1933, as far as I can tell. So these things could be revived and brought back out into the light.
And should be. So anything new in your guys' neck of the woods? Jason, how's things down there?
Oh, typical people are shaking in their boots, apparently. Did a couple of hospital drive-bys. Don't really see anything going on. Went out for sushi. Didn't really see anything going on. Yeah, it's great.
Jason, I saw a report that there was a lot of military movement in the New Orleans area, I think. Did you see anything?
People do send me stuff, but I haven't heard anything in the past day or so. The last one I got was from like a week ago.
Richie from Boston today showed a train of tanks in, I think it was in Louisiana.
Oh, I saw the same thing in California.
Okay.
I saw a video of it. Here comes a train going by with a bunch of tanks on it. But you say it also happened in Louisiana, Dave?
Well, that's I saw that on a Richie from Boston video, and he did show I think he showed the metadata showing that where it was filmed, and I don't know, just interesting times, that's for sure.
I did have my temperature taken today. I had to have
you had what?
I had my temperature taken because I went to the doctor with Missa to do an ultrasound, and they had the whole get up at the start. They asked me if I was around anybody with corona. Have I been in and out of the country? And they took my temperature by pointing something at my head and said, "You're fine, you can go in." So I'm in that group now.
I heard somebody said that somebody sent me a story where they had a sore throat, had a little bit of, wasn't feeling well, went to the doctor tested him for strep. The strep came out negative, therefore he has corona.
Oh yeah, there you go.
So have you seen all this coming back that now if they're saying that a high percentage of people that are coming back positive also had the flu vaccine in the last 6 months, and then that also causes a false positive?
Wow, I find that so hard to believe.
Well, I think we could make the argument that any positive is a false positive, couldn't we? At this point, I mean, an idea can't really be tested, can it?
No, but when they're looking for anything dependent on, it would be great to find something that was put into all these flu shots, and then all of a sudden the marker comes back and they say, "Oh, look it, you have it." Well, it's just people that are already scared shitless enough to go get a flu shot, enough to allow the vaccine into their system, and now there's some marker in there that they're able to pick up and call whatever they want, and the whole world crumbles because of it. Shut down the economy. It's over.
So many people have kind of caught on. It's almost mystifying what happens next. And Jason and I put out a clip. And as we did it, I was aware I may be walking into the classic Tavistock trick where you say things one way and do them another just to keep everything off balance. But if you think about how many people are kind of onto this game, what has to happen next for this to move forward in any direction at all? If you follow.
I'm just hoping it moves back. I'm hoping it doesn't move forward. I'm hoping people stand up for their rights. And granted, that hasn't happened yet. Granted, a lot of people are asleep. I'm not saying they're not. I'm not saying the world's awake. But I do think that, and maybe I was listening to you, Crow, talking about it. A lot of people have gone now 3 weeks, 4 weeks without a paycheck. And that may be something that they can get through. But as it goes too much further, I don't think people are going to stand for it.
Well, there's the thing right there, because as Jason dug up the Insurrection Act, which is kind of a puzzle in itself. We were already looking for a constitutional expert, scholar, to be clear. But in that act, they changed it, 0607, and the language that was inserted, instead of there's trouble, there's violence, there's this, it became there's a pandemic, and there's a disease, there's public health. And then they repealed it a couple times, which made it unclear. But the point I would make is if your benchmark is disorder, just don't pay people for about 5 weeks, and you're going to get exactly what you need, because refrigerators will be empty and people have to eat, which everybody knows. And secondarily, people with families and a house payment. These things are stressful for anyone who's had a house and a family and can't make the payment. There will be a result here.
I think they're going to push it until enough people, which hopefully we're approaching that point, just kind of wake up and are just saying no. Like when they tried it with Ebola and SARS, they did the full push in the press, and people didn't buy it for very long, and then it just vanishes. And I'm kind of expecting that to happen. When enough people are like, what the heck is this? They'll just stop. But they've taken this one so far economically.
I don't think
that when if they just stop and say, oh, it's gone, it went away. It mysteriously went away. Like, in that book, what's her name book?
Sylvia
Brown's book. Like, they'll just let us. What's going to happen to society for the next 6 months or whatever? It's going to be insane.
Well, part of the problem with what's gone on is the scope is beyond imagination. We're not just talking about one country, as everybody knows, but if you start to pay attention as much as you can, since there is no news that will cover it monetarily, what's been going on, we switched the form of governance we have here, whether it gets called that or not. Basically, corporation and what we used to call government, which was still a corporation, have merged. Industry, maybe that's a better word for it. They've bought up all this debt, and so that's kind of like a credit default swap, right? But when that kind of thing goes on, the person who acquired the debt gets ownership or control. And so the amount of debt that has been bought up, I mean, even orders to quit evicting people from houses, we'll buy that debt. Well, does that now mean the government owns your house or an interest in your house? What does that mean? So when you start to go down the road, I don't really think that saying one day, oh, guess what? Everybody's free of corona now. We can all go back to. I don't think that day comes. I don't think it's possible for that day to come. And the reason is because too many people are so vividly aware of the overreach.
Do you think that they'll just make it disappear? Now, society cannot go back to what it was before. I mean, we've crossed that line a while ago. But if you had to guess, do you think they're just going to keep pushing this virus for a while, or is it just you think through the summer?
If I was a betting man without a crystal ball, and the fact that I put up the last clip I did proves I don't have a crystal ball, that's a huge risk to do what I did, and I knew it when I did it. And if I'm wrong, I'll come up and say, sorry, I'm wrong. There's absolutely the possibility that that's going to happen.
Not to mention tweeting the Surgeon General.
Well, I did tweet the Surgeon General. Regardless of what the result of what appears to be going on, what he said is written in stone. And he's a Mason, by the way, so it should be. That is the most provocative language I've ever seen. As a matter of fact, I forgot I was going to tweet him again and say, what the hell, man? Do you give a damn about we, the human beings? And say it again. Are you going to clarify this kind of warlike language? But
does he respond to tweets?
He hasn't responded to mine. He hasn't deigned to give me a vowel or two.
Does he ever respond to tweets? I don't.
I don't know, and I'm the worst guy to ask, because the truth is I have never sent a tweet specifically to anyone until the Surgeon General. I'm like, how does this work? Okay, I need the @ thing, and I'm going to his site. I'm copying. I just post stuff. I don't use social media to poll myself. Basically, all social media is a form of polling, if you break it down to Tavistock's most trusted tool. So what you're doing is you're feeding data, and what that data allows them to do is customize the message and customize groups. It does many things. But to get back to the fake virus at hand, this can't go back to normal. And while we can't know what comes next for sure, what we can know is what we've seen in the past. In the past, no matter how ridiculous it gets, they double down, they triple down, they quadruple down, and then they turn around and they rewrite the history. They never, I can't recall a single time when they've ever backed off a narrative. Think of Boston, think of Sandy Hook, think of all the things where they were just so outed and all they did was quadruple down,
Yeah, the difference that I'm hoping, or at least that I see, is that when they tell us that these 3,000 people died in New York from 9/11, okay, so people can register with that. They're like, oh, how terrible that would be if my brother, my sister, my friend was in that. And then same thing with, Sandy Hook. What if it was my friend's child, et cetera, et cetera. But with this, to me, with the way that they're building it up, eventually people are going to be looking for members of their family and friends to get sick and die. And I just think eventually people aren't going to find that. And then don't you think they're eventually at some point going to say, hey, wait a second, we've shut down the entire economy, and yet nobody I know has had anything happen. The reason I think that's going to happen, that's kind of what I'm hearing from some friends, my sister, people who believe the mainstream, believe the story, but are starting to ask the question of, why haven't I heard of anybody getting sick?
Well, there's a huge problem with our world right now, and we could actually put a name on it, and I would be part of the group I'm about to down a little bit, partially because it's the fault of the group, and partially because they've been beat to death, basically, beat down to a nub. It's the baby boomers. I'm supposed to be the last year of that generation, and what's going on here is this is the number game. So 100,000 people find out beyond question that this is all nonsense, as so many of the things are. But guess what? You got all those baby boomers, older, sitting in front of their TV, come from a different generation. They did the whole wild child thing in the 60s, and all the ones who grew up and got jobs realized that kind of lifestyle didn't pan out. They got very conservative, a lot of them, because they didn't want their children to be a hippie like they were. And they sit in front of that television, and that's been a generational thing back to Cronkite, when he was the most trusted man. And that's a huge problem. Jason asked me earlier, does your mom know who you are? He asked me. I said, well, she knows who I am, but she has no perception of what I do, or, all that. And there's the case in point. I literally, I'm here in the East Coast to take care of my mother, who's nearly 90. I walk up as many times as doesn't seem rude to cajole her over to MASH or Andy Griffith or, Turner Classic Movie, anything but the damn news. As a matter of fact, I bet you studies have been done that would show how much kind of fearful negative news blasted at you for 3 weeks straight. That's got to have an effect on your health, doesn't it?
For sure.
So yeah, absolutely.
I can take it for about 5 minutes, max.
You're better than me, man. I hear 3 syllables and I'm already starting to choke.
I can't stand that cadence that they use. It's
I know.
hideous. I never liked it as a child, but now as an awake adult, it's like, oh my God, shut up.
Dude, that's in the Coleman work as part of the Tavistock training. Even for the politicians, they directly address how after they've been psychologically profiled and approved to start moving into a public position, like president or senator or whatever, they're taught to speak in a certain cadence. And not only that, way back, they started teaching the women to be less feminine, to talk more like men, more forceful, more abruptly, more deep-toned. It's crazy what's gone on in our world.
People get their information from the news, and the news is short clips, cut, music. It's all hypnotic, but it's I use the term it's the world of the Twitter mentality. 240 characters or whatever Twitter allows. That's about the attention span that people can handle, and if that's all you can handle to get your information is these short clips, you're never going to get any information. Think about what we look up when we're researching this. We're reading and watching and listening and studying and for hours and days to put this stuff together. People can watch like 2 minutes, and if it's more than 2 minutes, they tune out.
You know what part of the big problem is to be like a considerate person and a reasonable person in the current construct. Like Jason's a good example. A reasonable person. Jason's not a person who, if he's not 100% sure, is never going to back it. And a lot of that is in our society where people care about being socially acceptable on some level. But there's something to an extreme case of that allows people to commit. And that's a big problem too. You can see the proof right in front of you, but you still have this lingering doubt. So, well, maybe I just don't know, and I'm good with that. And that's part of the problem, because that gets leveraged off too. All this online data collection is in fact polling, and they, I get on and it cracks me up who they try to get me to go see on Twitter. They want me to go see Nancy Pelosi. That's one of the offers that comes out. The Dalai Lama. And so a while ago I started saying, okay, well, let's play a little game here. So I started saying, don't show me any more Nancy Pelosi. Don't show me any more Dalai Lama. And then so they were thinking they got it wrong, so here comes the Republican side of the house, the non-liberal side of the house. And so I let that go on a while. I said, don't show me any more of this, and don't show me any more of this. Then it became, here's the politicians in your state. It's like, my God.
We got a super chat from Rhino. He says, I can't listen live now, but I'm working in the ER tonight, and I will play it on my shift via TFR because the hospital is so slow. Still waiting for that surge. That's another thing. I just think people are going to catch on to that eventually. I mean, there's tons of people. I know a few nurses that say that there's nobody in the hospitals. They're completely empty. And now I read an article today that the local health center here in my city is laying off 33% of their workers because of the coronavirus.
There's a whole thing with the
3%.
What does that mean? You have a bigger problem supposedly than before, and you're laying off people?
Right. Yeah.
How does that make sense?
It doesn't make any sense.
But I got to say this before I forget, because I know someone like David Weiss will probably look into it. There's something about the ventilators, and I suspect it has to do with frequencies. But the ventilators became a thing. So we know the hospitals are empty, right? We've seen it everywhere, and I'm not a person who rides the fence. When I'm pretty reasonably sure of a thing, I'm happy to go along. I've been doing this long enough. You don't make that many mistakes, then you're doing okay. But the ventilator thing, they start ordering them up and making a big deal out of them, and I'm almost convinced it's got to be something to do with the 5G.
I think that it's more of a mind control, or maybe it's both, but it's more of a mind control. If you watch, we're all programmed with all these contagion movies, and people are petrified of suffocating, and the ventilator, when you say ventilator, it means, that you need that or you're going to suffocate, and that trauma is that memory from all of that programming. So I watched the governor today. I just literally heard 30 seconds of his speech, and he said ventilator like 14 times.
Well, so there it is.
I just think that they're programming us.
I'm pretty good at smelling when something's burning in the kitchen, and I assure you something's burning in the kitchen. But then sometimes I think, wouldn't it be ironic to find out that like some senator owns the ventilator company or something, and they're just cleaning up on the other? But no, I assure you there's something about the ventilators. And if I was going to actually take the time to research it, which I don't have time, I would go straight at are they wireless devices? And what do they transmit? How do they transmit it? That's what I would start with.
The New York City hospitals are reserving like 70% of their beds for COVID patients. That's why they're empty. And so they're encouraging they're not encouraging people to go to the hospital, older people, sick people, when they're not feeling well. They're not taking them to the hospital. They're having people, stay at home. And there's older people that are afraid to go to the hospital that are having issues. So there is a higher percentage of people that are having heart attacks at home rather than in the hospital or other issues. So the EMS workers are reporting that they're having more, calls where the people are dead when they get there, and that's just because they're not dying in the hospital. They're being left. They're staying home with serious conditions.
I would love to see the death certificate, though. You know what I'm saying? Because we heard from other people. Actually, Dr. Kaufman, who was aware directly of an EMT, where they were directed that you just put COVID killed him, and that heart thing that was going on, that's a secondary issue. I would love to know firsthand what an EMT that knows a heart attack just happened, if they're actually persuaded to do the whole COVID game to get the numbers up where they need them.
Well, again, I saw this document today from the CDC where it says, in cases where a definite diagnosis of COVID-19 cannot be made, but it is suspected or likely, example, the circumstances are compelling within a reasonable degree of certainty, it is acceptable to report COVID-19 on a death certificate as probable or presumed. In these instances, certifiers should use their best clinical judgment in determining if a COVID-19 infection was likely. However, please note that testing for COVID-19 should be conducted wherever possible.
And then down on the fine print, it probably says COVID does not exist.
Right. I don't see that part.
You got to look real close. It's like a 0.0001 font.
Right. We have Marika Netrekos says, hindsight is now. We live in amazing times. We live in the age of deception. There's no doubt. There's no doubt there. But yeah, the media is I mean, they're doing their part big time here, man. They are just pushing this so much. And you're right, the cadence of their voices, the way they present things, and they've got those keywords, right? It's just like 9/11 where you kept hearing those keywords thrown in there. It's the same thing. How many times can you hear pandemic? How many times can you hear COVID-19 during this crisis? And it's just sickens me.
I don't think this is coming out the way that everyone planned, even if they get their little way for a while, Iron Fist or whatever. I always end up considering logical problems, you know, like if I try to consider, what if I was the guy trying to run this nonsense? What would I be worried about? So then I start thinking about every night, all the talk shows on the, you know, the low channels, NBC, ABC, they have these Hollywood guests. And in anything is going on in the world, and a prime example is back when Houston was being hit by a manipulated hurricane. Did you see Bruce Willis's face during that? That dude was livid. He wanted to be anywhere else on planet Earth than telling that lie. You could see it. It was like if his eyes could move, they would have said exactly what I just did. So I started thinking, if you are someone going on a talk show tonight in Hollywood, you know damn well you have to toe the party line, don't you? When they talk about COVID, you got to say the right things. You got to toe the party line. But suppose next Saturday there is some military action or something horrible that any human being has to acknowledge that is freaking horrible. Now these people went on these shows. They did all the stuff celebrities do. They towed the party line, but now they got to face that actual human beings are being impacted in a gut-wrenching, horrible way. How do you hold that all together? You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Crow, we have about 2 minutes before the break. I'm assuming there might be a few people listening that have not watched your short clip from yesterday. Can you sum it up?
Okay. So the Surgeon General, who's a 32nd degree Mason, came on, and I'll read verbatim. I can get over here to Twitter really quick. He said, "This is going to be our Pearl Harbor moment, or 9/11 moment. Only it's not going to be localized. It's going to be happening all over the country, and I want America to understand that." And there was additional language that put it on Christianity's highest holy holiday, which of course would be Easter, when you're not near Christmas. So this is language that is almost to me like a military threat against the American people. So I dug in, and the first thing I found that I didn't know is, if you're going to conflate Pearl Harbor with this, what is it about Pearl Harbor? We know it's a fake event. We've proved it, or I've proved it. They declared martial law in the state of Hawaii on Pearl Harbor Day, and he says it's not going to be localized. It's going to be happening all over the country. So there's more to it, because of course the Greek gods, Apollo, Artemis, Diana, sun and moon, Easter, how all that gets put together is what I put in the clip to make my case. And by the way, just because I made that case, it does not make me right, and there is certainly a chance that I will be on the wrong side of this. There certainly is. But I had to say it because there's also a possibility it could happen.
Right. And like you said, if it doesn't come true, you'll be happy to be wrong.
In this case, absolutely. I'll buy cakes to everyone.
Good thing to be wrong about.
Yeah.
Right.
If ever.
All right, guys, we're going to go to break. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit more. And if you guys have questions for Crow or Jason or Dave or I, get in line, 213-233-3998. We'll be taking your calls tonight. And let us know what you think, what's going on in your area. But we'll talk a little bit more about that tweet when we get back. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw.
Truth and you feel betrayed. Well, it comes with cost, a price too large. As if we're really just born to die. I'd rather not been born. Stay in school, they said. Use your tools, they said.
It's amazing how people have been raving about IL Life all over Facebook. They've been posting their testimony.
Odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Jacob Frank Leibovich is the mastermind behind a global network of satanic cults. He taught that the Creator God was evil. Jacob Frank proclaimed himself as the true Messiah. He vowed never to tell the truth. He rejected every moral law and declared that the only way to a new society was through the total destruction of civilization. Murder, rape, incest, and the drinking of blood were perfectly acceptable actions and rituals. His followers established the Marxist system and have infiltrated Islam and Judaism. He was the Messiah of the Illuminati.
EnigmaTV.com.
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
Your protection from deception. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
All right, welcome back. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Thank you guys for joining us. Hope you're doing well and keeping your higher-minded selves alert at this time. It is definitely a time to do so. We got a super chat from Eric the Lion who says, COVID-19 equals 666 in gematria, the number of the man and the number of the beast. I saw this on a meme today. Is this true? I'm not somebody who goes down that route because there's about 50 different ciphers and reverse ordinal and inside out and backwards and Jewish gematria and English gematria, and I think sometimes you can pretty much put in whatever you want. But I have heard Corona equals 33 in one of them, but I've not heard that COVID-19 equals anything. You guys? I'm just not, it's not my forte. Hello?
Crow, didn't you guys break it down?
I'm sorry. I'm reading two things at once. I heard some of that. Just give me the cliff note real quick.
What's the gematria for COVID-19?
The obvious ones are going to be with language and not numbers. And as Jeran was pointing out, the numbers game gets touchy because there's so many ways to do it, and it almost starts to appear like people are just looking for the method that'll get them where they want to go. And there is kind of an argument for that, but sometimes there's no denying it. It is carnivorous, I think, is one of them. Another one was basically something to do with non-reality. God, what was it? I can't think, but what I always try to go is the language game first. And you've got to realize the people who I consider the trailblazers, one of them is Downard, James Shelby Downard. This man cracked it. He, as far as I know, was the first man to show that ontology and topology were key in the magic that's being done. Now we're talking about geography, like this town is named this thing. It's named this thing for a while, or for a reason. I mean, it's on these parallels. It's on these coordinates. These things all have meaning, and the names, more than anything, the names. If you want to get into the topology, it gets so in depth. It's so difficult because you've got to know all kinds of things to start to get there. But for me, it's always the language first, and there's no doubt. And actually, the one that I just realized, God, I wish I could remember. It basically, in English, it would mean this is not true. And that's one of the versions of the letters put back together.
Well, there you go. So, Crow, I know before the commercial break you were talking about the tweet there. What do you think's going on there? What do you think he's implying? I guess, for those who haven't heard the clip that you guys posted late last night.
There's two real possibilities in this Tavistock playbook, and these are the people who are as responsible as any other group, as far as I can tell, for the fall of America. Certainly for the fall of Germany, certainly got us into World War I, certainly got us into World War II, all kinds of things. What he's doing is he's using language that is warlike, and it's directed at the American people. Now, is he just doing the destabilization bit where they always keep you off balance, where you just want some good information, but you never get it? This horrible thing's going to happen. Well, it didn't happen. Oh, this horrible thing's going to happen. Didn't happen. Then all of a sudden, nothing's going to happen. Something does, or any version that you could put together. That's one of the Tavistock playbooks for mass herd control. When I read it, what I put together last that convinced me I was going to run it is people have been weeks without a paycheck now. It's one thing not to be able to make your rent, but it's another thing when your refrigerator's empty. And that's when it occurred to me, by the time the Day of the Sun comes next week on Easter, the day we call Easter, people are going to have been weeks without money, and that could very well translate to people without food.
I mean, I think it's to me, it just seems like they're just pushing fear again, pushing despair. I mean, when you invoke 9/11, when you invoke Pearl Harbor, for some people, for most people, it invokes fear. It invokes despair. They get that, and to me, sickness and disease comes from fear. So I'm not buying the fear that they're trying to sell. I'm not lending them that fear. Now, for us, the good thing is when you invoke 9/11, when you invoke Pearl Harbor, we go a different direction. Right.
Well, you can prove these are faked events. You can prove that. Now, people want to yell conspiracy. Go ahead. Go pull up your Huggies and go get a juice cup if that's the way you want to go. It's provably put-ups. Provably what we have been told is not true. Provably they were engineered events. But here's more. The reason I was having trouble doing two things, thanks from Chris on my Twitter feed. She just posted this from the Associated Press. From New York, Americans brace for what the nation's top doctor warned Sunday would be the hardest and saddest week of their lives. Mm-hmm. Who posts stuff like this? What does coronavirus have like a stopwatch? So they quick went Reddit. Oh yeah, man, 5 days from now, gonna be hell. It's all a put up, and so to me that's a threat. Whether or not they carry it out, I would be glad to be wrong on this one. But I'm starting to feel like
the manipulation of the people's minds and especially the financial markets. Trump said that we're going to have 2 weeks, lots of death. I mean, that should have crushed the market. And then on Sunday night, he goes, it looks like the curve is flattening out a little bit, and the futures market, we had like the second highest rate, run up in stocks today. It's everything is so fake, it's unreal.
They're using the Tavistock polling method that I was mentioning earlier, which is one of the most insidious weapons next to TV. And polling is used in so many ways that I can't even get into it. But they're starting to say that Trump's ratings are at an all-time high. Those are just, whatever the truth is, nobody knows. They're just making up crap like they always do. But you can see it reflected in the community of all the people who are still convinced that someone's draining the swamp or some nonsense. And this shows the power of these communications, because when you do the polling, you can see what people get invested in. You can see their belief system by what they subscribe to. I talked about these other methods, network science, where you can take conservatives and Republicans. It's been shown. I've seen live experiments done. And each person is labeled red or blue. And when you first get them into the network of a data feed, they're all mixed together. And very quickly they start to pull apart. And within a very short period of time, you have two tribes. One's red, one's blue. And that is just such the lowest level. And so what's happened here is they keep feeding in to the pretty large audience of people that had their hopes and dreams pinned that we finally had a president that was different somehow, willing to forget that he's basically a second or third cousin from Hillary, or whatever the right way to say it is, from the same royal Scottish bloodline, forgetting the fact that his face is in the Illuminati card game from the 80s or the 90s, whatever it was, forgetting that Simpsons pre-echoed him, South Park pre-echoed him, and by the way, right before the election, the last thing South Park said was "buckle up, buckaroo." And these things are beyond the pale, but the power and reach of the now network science and data collection and polling just gives so much manipulation power. I would be willing to bet there are people in the chat room listening to us now that are still convinced that somehow we got a president that's here to help.
Well, Q's not helping in that department either. Dave, what's your current Q-tard percentage? Are you on a rise? Mine.
God,
I am. You can say it, Crow. I'm less than 1%, and the only reason is because I can't rule anything out. I was pushing some high double digits the other day. Not good.
Yeah, I wish I could say more than I can, and I can't, but I will say this. It's more than I should say. I know firsthand, beyond doubt, that Q is a put-up. 100% fraud. That's all I can say. It's all I'm ever going to say. It's
that
fraud.
Makes the most sense of all.
Right. Sure does.
Unfortunately, that makes the most sense of all. So.
You mean we shouldn't put all of our hope in 4chan cryptic posters?
Just 2 more weeks and it'll all be good. You'll see. You'll see in 2 weeks.
8chan.
Did you guys notice that there's fewer mosquitoes around? The swamp is definitely draining.
Definitely. It's on its way out. It's happening. And if it doesn't happen, it'll happen in 4 weeks.
I have a question. You were just mentioning The Simpsons and South Park, how the stuff is all forecast in the shows. To a normie sleeping person, bringing up one of those things as proofs just makes you look like a complete crazy person. Is that why they use those avenues to program us? Because if you try to show it to somebody to wake them up, it just puts them into a deeper sleep?
Well, if you were a person who was told that and pointed to one thing, it would be coincidence to you if you were at all a reasonable person. The reason the pre-echoing, it is so kind of multi-headed what that does. But for all the research on Tavistock, one thing we learned way back on the early coverage when I did an in-depth study was that Tavistock has a pre-production dude. Do you remember what they're called, Jason, those dudes that sit right before production? Is it advisor? Was that right? Some kind of an advisor? I forget the name, but they're actually Tavistock trained. And so what happens is these mostly 35 to 40 something hipsters write whatever's going to go out. They rework it till it's, acceptable to get ready to try to film it. Between that point and the camera turning on to film a thing, there is an advisor, is what I'll call them, that's putting in the little things they need for psychological programming, for pre-echoing, for mass hypnotization, for lack of better terms. And that's pretty much claimed to go on all the way across all media at this point. As a matter of fact, Coleman, who was one of the people who broke the Committee of 300, or supposedly the guy who did that, his last foray into all this was 2005, I think. He named names, and he showed that there's not a person sitting in Senate, in a president's chair, from at least Woodrow Wilson, anywhere in these places that people wish were there to help, that did not get psychologically profiled by the Tavistock organization to even be green-lighted to approach taking a position. Obama's a good example. Jimmy Carter's a prime example. What's more is when CNN first came out, they were towing the Tavistock party line. But by the time Fox came, Fox is owned lock, stock, and barrel by this place. All the people, all the everything. And they called it the Right Roaring Thunder, or it was 3 R's. I forget the name Tavistock used for people like Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly. And what they were using them for was to radically go right for the war drumming. And there's a whole list of things they needed to do to get us to go into Iraq the first time. And not only that, all the lies that they were caught in, the mass weapons of mass destruction, just the endless litany of lies that were told to try to get us in, it still wasn't working. The same thing was going on in World War II. No one wanted a part of it. Tavistock helped them put that together too. They got the commander of the Pacific Fleet to move the safely harbored ships in San Diego to Pearl Harbor, and then Tavistock, as the social engineers, went to work on Japan until they were bleeding them to such a painful point they forced them to do the act. That's how these things happen. So when you start to understand that basically you're living in a frickin' dream world, this world you wanted, it's not here. This world you've been told about, it's not here. And when you come back to reality, then you start to be able to get a grip. And you're not going to fall for Q, and you're not going to fall for Trump or any other human being with a name, because to be in that position is to be controlled. It's that simple.
Well, the one thing I would say about that, and I agree with everything you said, although I think the other thing that I'm seeing is people falling for the non-human savior. And maybe I'm looking in the wrong directions, but I'm seeing a lot of Christians out there who say God is behind this. He's pushing he's punishing the world. He's prepping for the final show. Jesus is on his way. And all I got to say is, please, people, stand up for your rights. Stand up against tyranny. Stand up against lies. Please do not think that these are signs that you need to sit back and watch the show. That's not what's going on in my mind.
I don't even want to bring this up, but that whole thing about religion was a major part of the Tavistock onslaught. Right. They took apart Germany. To get into World War I, they had to defame the Queen's cousin, Kaiser Wilhelm II. It's proven now that everything they were told in that generation was basically just a lie. Similar to what they did with Saddam Hussein. They turned him into a monster that eats babies three meals a day. And they piled on every law in the book to get hate in the hearts of the people. And then they started questioning safety and all these other ways to get that to happen. But one of the playbooks, and well, I'll back up here a minute. The way they got their playbook, Tavistock, which was originally Wellington House, and by the way, Tavistock is the name of the first Duke or whoever the hell he was, Lord something Tavistock. Lord Wellington, yeah. That's where they get the name for this place. But what they did is they came across Sigmund Freud, and now you know Bernays. Bernays was on Tavistock's payroll, I can now show. Most people think that he was not the brilliant one, that it was actually his uncle, but who cares? What was done was done. So there was a book called The Fall of Western Civilization, which became the Tavistock's playbook. Apparently, it's kind of obliquely, occultly stated that they had good histories on the fall of Greece and the fall of Rome. If that's true, then whatever the Vatican hides, the real histories, they must have had access to. So they went back and they figured out the main reasons for the falls of these empires. Some of the things was, no, this is why they took Germany apart in World War II, by the way, because women were highly respected. Believe it or not, there was a high Christian ethic, which meant high moral value. There was some of the highest art known to the world coming from this place, and some of the highest science. Those four things prevented ever being controlled. That's why they took Germany apart. What they did with what they learned from the fall of Greece and the fall of Rome was they boiled it down. And that's what started the 60s for us. As soon as they got done taking Germany apart in something like 46, they set their sights on the United States. The first time we really begin to feel it or notice it is the 60s counter-revolution, which is wholly engineered from the drugs to the music to everything else you want to say. But one of the first goals was to reduce women from respectability. Women used to be held on a pedestal, and women used to conduct themselves in a way that's different than they do now. That was one of their first main targets. They wanted to introduce homosexuality. They didn't think they could get away with it, so they used lesbianism first because they surmised that it's easier to do that first. The first time they did that was in Florida. Can you remember Anita Bryant, the beauty queen, actress, singer, who sold orange juice, who didn't like all the homosexuality, and she stood up in public, and they crushed her like a bug. You can go back and look at these things. There were other things. There were like 5 main things that had to be taken apart, and one of those things was the Christian Foundation, as they did in Germany. Part of it was to radicalize religion. Part of it was to divide it. Part of it was to make crazy messaging, and just unbelievable how many things they did to mess with the Christian foundations that this country was built on. But they'd already done it. It's exactly what they did in Germany. It's just no one can remember because they all think Hitler had fangs and that they were all a cult. But these things, none of these things are true. It's just part of the facade. But anyhow, there's my big spiel for the night.
And Guitar Guy Bear says, hey guys, are you planning to do a show on population stats? 7 billion is nonsense to me. Who's the guy that goes around counting every person? I've done a couple shows on it. Jason, have you guys talked much about population? I mean,
we have. We did a hell of a show. Rose can probably cite it, but we proved that the population is in free fall, and we broke it down by groups of genetic pools like Japanese, African, these types of things, and we showed that historically birth rates have never, it's claimed, been recovered from when you go below 2.5. There's a crap load of places below 2.5 right now, which means, if all that's correct, that in 3 generations, some of the groups of human beings will be going extinct on this planet in the next 3 generations.
When you say 2.5, you're talking about growth percentage increase?
I wanted to say that represented children, but it's actually a stat used to measure the birth rate of nations.
Right, got you. So if you have 1,000, what do you have at the end of the first year? You would have, if it's a 2.5% increase, you would have, 1,025.
I don't know if that's correct. Jason might be able to address this better. I got the sense that it was one of these things. It's a measuring tool that doesn't follow typical percentage logic. That's the sense because at first I thought it meant the average household had 2.5 kids. Because when I was growing up, that's what they said. The average household was 2.5 kids. But I don't think it's that. Right, Jason?
No, you're talking about the replacement rate. If you don't have an adequate replacement rate, your society declines, not as opposed to increases. And the Asians are dying out, the whites are dying out, the Caucasians, all of that. It's the Latinos are doing okay, and the I think it was the Africans are doing okay. I haven't looked at these stats in a while to pull them up again, but a lot of the Westerners are dying out. The Russians, for instance, actually pay, if I recall correctly, for people to have children and help you because they don't want to die out.
Right. Yeah. I didn't. I've heard of that. There's a replacement percentage, and then there's also growth increase, which people question. But then they say, "Oh, well, it doesn't count the people that are dying," but it does. If you take a look at what that percentage is, just basically if you have 1,000 people in your city, what do you have at the end of the year? It depends on what your growth rate percentage is. If your growth rate is 1%, then you'd have 1,010 people at the end of the year. and then you recalculate for year 2, and you recalculate from there. So I was just wondering what percentage you guys were talking about.
Japan's in big trouble is one of the things that we pointed out.
They're probably the worst, if I remember. From what
they're right there. And as a matter of fact, there's PBA. I don't watch TV, but there are a couple things that I do occasionally watch. And one is a show called Journeys in Japan, and the other one has to do with their big food market. But regularly on those episodes, you'll go to any given town, and they'll say there's no more children.
Yeah, it's definitely happening.
By the way, they like to fudge that with the United States because we have such an influx of immigrants.
Right.
So they fudge the numbers, basically. More to the point, they don't explain it properly. I mean, the people who were here aren't replacing themselves. What we have and why the population is gaining is because so many people from below the Central American and South American continents are coming here.
Right. And then they take that and they say, okay, well, we had
we're growing
10 million, right? Then we got 300. Well, this is our growth rate percentage, and this must be due to births, where that's not at all where they're all coming from. In fact, families are having less and less children. That's proven. That's obvious.
Well,
the joke in Idiocracy is actually coming true now. Do you remember the beginning of the movie?
Remind me.
The beginning of the movie was the two smart people are saying we're going to wait to have children, and they wait too long, and then all of a sudden they can't have it. The idiot next door who's banging everybody in his trailer park is the one having a zillion kids. It's kind of along those lines. The idiots are having kids, but also the immigrants are coming in and taking up the numbers that they're saying are the growth rate of the country, when in fact it's not the people who are here, the producers that we know that contribute to the overall economics of the country. Those aren't the ones who are putting the most forward, is basically what it boils down to.
These ideas have been attacked by so many sides, it's almost mind-boggling. Anyone can go on the internet and look up the sperm counts of an average American man compared to the 70s. It's astonishing. That kind of thing has to do with health and food and Lord knows what else, the chemicals we ingest. But one of the biggies that is provably engineered was the women's lib movement in the 70s. The leader of that movement is now openly in a YouTube clip admitting she was a CIA asset. Twice. But here's the kicker. Somehow these people knew that if they did the movement in the way they did, first, they convinced women that men were treating them bad, and it wasn't hard to do because they weren't making the money, but typically the women were more family-centric in most of Western culture. So what they did is they convinced them, you're getting the short end of the stick, but to be more even, you need to act more like a man. And in doing this, a lot more women went into the workforce, but that's not really the issue. During all the engineering, women stopped starting families in their early 20s and started in their early 30s. And that one thing had an astonishing effect on the birth rate. Here where I am in Rhode Island, I grew up here as a kid. Every house had 2 to 3 kids. Some had 5. There were a few that had more than that, but I'm talking there was one house in the neighborhood that had one child. As a matter of fact, one of the families had a boat called 8 O's because their last name started with O. So they had 8 children, and then they had another, so they had to pay plus 1. It was 8 O's plus 1 on their boat. So now there are no children in this neighborhood. I mean, children. It's almost unusual. Like if I ever see young people, and I'm thinking teens walk by, I take note. It's been engineered, and so now when you think about the guidestones, you should consider them differently. And not only that, the whole blurring of gender and the onset of gay is okay, that also is on the Tavistock playbook to reduce birth rate. It's supposed to morally degrade society from their point of view, but one of the things is it's pretty clear a same-gender couple is not producing offspring. It's come at us from so many sides, it's mind-boggling.
Absolutely. All right, we got about a minute left, and I think we're going to stay on YouTube tonight, so we'll be on YouTube for your phone calls, so people just know that. And Crow, you going to hang around for another hour and let people ask you some questions?
Hey, man, I'll do my part while I can. When I'm older than dirt, I might have to decline, but that's getting close.
All right. Well, you're nowhere near. Oh, I thought you said older than dirt. I was going to say, come on, you're not even that close.
I was trying to be polite. I said dirt.
All right. We'll be right back, guys. Thank you for joining us. We do appreciate it. We'll be back with your phone calls. If you want to get in line, call now, 213-233-3998. The phone number is on the screen. and ask away. Tell us what's going on where you're at, or ask us a question, and we will be sure to answer it. So you're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. And the clock is wrong. My clock says 0 seconds. All right, maybe there's no bumper music.
Boop, boop, there. Let's play some human music.
And pay no attention to the fake news, would you?
Censorship and regulation is becoming an ever-growing problem in today's modern media. From the mainstream to YouTube and Google, the information you're looking for is buried by official narratives and propaganda. This is why TFR is 100% uncensored, unregulated, and listener-supported. The shows on TFR are not micromanaged by the station, and our hosts are free to speak their minds however they please. As such, the views and opinions expressed on our station are of those who make them. If you happen to hear anything offensive on TFR, please send us an email to toughtitty@tfrlive.com, and we'll be happy to tell you that we really don't give a damn. We stand for freedom of speech and non-censorship. If you also stand free speech, you can go to tfrlive.com/sign-up and sign up for a TFR supporter pass and help us in our mission to keep the airwaves uncensored and unregulated. TFR Live, your uncensored and unregulated protection from deception.
Working on treatments. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Several drug companies actively working to come up with a drug to treat COVID-19. President Trump with the announcement at this evening's coronavirus task force briefing.
Currently, 10 different therapeutic agents are in active trials, and some are looking incredibly successful, but we have to go through a process. And it's going to be a fairly quick process, I will tell you, based on what the FDA told me. And another 15 are in plans for clinical trials.
And the president saying the federal government has reached an agreement with 3M for delivery an additional 55.5 million masks each month for frontline workers. The president also wishing British Prime Minister Boris Johnson well after learning Johnson has been moved into intensive care after contracting the virus last month.
He tested positive for coronavirus about 10 days ago, and while some of his colleagues like the health secretary and others had managed to shake it, Boris Johnson has had a consistent temperature. He couldn't get rid of it. And as a result, yesterday, they moved him into hospital. Downing Street said that Boris Johnson was just in hospital for precautionary tests. And here we are learning that he has been moved to the ICU and that he has handed over control of the government. He is deputized to Dominic Raab, the Foreign Secretary, which means effectively Boris Johnson is no longer making those key decisions, either on national security or now on leading the coronavirus response.
Fox's Benjamin Hall in London. New York is the hotspot for the virus in the U.S.
We're up to 8,658 new cases. Overall, we have 130,000 people who tested positive.
Governor Andrew Cuomo, the state is getting additional ventilators from California, which has returned hundreds they had to the national stockpile. An Australian court has dismissed convictions against Cardinal George Pell, the most senior member of the Catholic Church, found guilty of child sex abuse. America's listening to Fox News.
You must unite what has been set asunder.
We are TFR, Truth Frequency Radio.
On the weekday, don't be surprised, don't be surprised. Walk like us. They even talk like us. Walk like us. But they are not like us. On the weekday, you can see the signs, you can see the signs. They wear the disguise. Look into the mind's eye. There's nowhere to hide. Don't stick covered
right, welcome back. You are listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. We got another hour to go. We'll be taking your phone calls if you want to ask us a question or get your opinion in 213-233-3998. David, did you have any app updates, app news? By the way, we don't see the Eiffel Tower from London. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, that was I jumped the gun on that one, but it happens.
It happens. But whenever you hear reports that we see something from far away, you just have to think about first the perspective issue. So it would be impossible to see a 1,000-foot structure from 200 miles away simply due to perspective. It has nothing to do with the shape of the Earth. You simply can't see that. Think of
I thought of that when I saw it. I'm like, wow, it looks really big. But then there's that shot that the ballers use of the windmills over the water, where the windmills that are farther away, it looks like the blades are touching the ground, but the windmills farther away look bigger than the ones that are closer. So there you have proof of atmospheric magnification.
Right.
So that's what I was thinking, and then I put just a lot more faith in some channels, and I just didn't check it quick enough, and I sent out that video, and I just retracted it. No big deal.
No, it's great. And how's everything else with the app going?
App's doing well. I've just there's an update coming. Where I will be able to post non-YouTube videos, so from other platforms. Before I could not do that. I could do it, but it just wouldn't put the thumbnail on there. But so now I have the ability to select the thumbnail and use it from any of the other streaming platforms. So that'll be nice.
Nice. And let's see here. Let's get to the phone. So if you guys have a question, let us know. Go ahead, dude.
And one other thing, just in the web link on there, I do have a Corona playlist. So if you're trying to talk Corona with some people, you're looking for some videos, there's an ever updating list. It's got probably 100 videos in it now. If you're just looking for a quick way to access some of the latest Corona busting videos.
And there's plenty. So definitely check out the app for those.
It's endless.
Let's go to the 904. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. You have a question, comment? What's up? Bad start. 904.
Hello?
There you go. What's up?
Yeah. Hey, can you hear me?
Hear you great.
Hello? Okay, great. Thanks for taking my call, guys.
Sure.
I've got a few tidbits on some things going on with my family concerning COVID. And I've got an 88-year-old mother that was diagnosed with, she tested positive for COVID and was hospitalized on Friday. It started on Thursday. She fell, went to the hospital. They thought she might have broken her wrist. And earlier, I guess a few days earlier than that, she lives in assisted living. And some of the workers tested positive, so she randomly got tested. Thursday night, she was in the hospital. They were x-raying her for her wrist. It was negative, and they released her Friday morning. Friday afternoon, got a call that her test came back positive, and they were going to put her in the hospital. So, you get caught up in this, even though I know what's going on. 88 years old, tested positive for COVID. So they put her in the hospital, and I wasn't able to talk to her or anything, and couldn't get to the nurse for quite a while. And anyway, she had a elevated fever. It's the only symptom she had, but she also had a UTI, urinary tract infection, which could have been caused from it. And so I talked to her later that night, and she seemed fine. She said she feels great. I've been talking to her every day. It's been, I guess, 5 days now. It's Friday, Saturday, 5 days, and no symptoms. She's great. But they won't, of course, she's going to stay in the hospital until she tests negative twice. And so one of the situations where somebody tested positive for the virus and no symptoms. I was able to get in touch with my stepdaughter. She called, actually, when she heard about this. Hadn't talked to her in years. She's a ICU nurse in a major city. I don't want to say where. And she works directly with COVID patients. We talked for hours, getting caught up and everything. I asked her about the patients, and she was concerned about my mother. And at this time, I was very concerned. I'm not really concerned anymore. She's going to be fine. She's not sick. She told me they've got 80 patients in there in the ICU. 10 of them have died. I asked her, well, from what I understand, those are all old people, elderly people. And she said, oh, no, she was concerned about my mother. She didn't want me to think that old people were dying from this, I guess. And she told me, oh, no, we had a 38-year-old that died. And so I asked her, really a healthy 38-year-old. And she said, oh, no, she was sad story. She was in kidney failure. So
that might be serious.
Yeah, might lead to some problems.
You know, the question to ask these nurses is, what is the death rate this time last year or previous years? You know, how many people are in ICU on average, and how many of them die?
I asked her that. She wasn't in ICU last year, but she actually is not brain dead. I had some influence on her when she was younger. She apparently still doesn't watch TV, which I had an influence on when she was younger, about 15 years ago. And she was kind of downplaying this. She was acting like that this wasn't as serious as as what they're saying on TV. And she works in the ICU treating these patients every day. And even though they had some, 10 deaths, and I guess that's over the last month they've been taking people into ICU for this. I just got the impression from her that she wasn't as concerned as a lot of people are about this.
Right. Well, that's what I'm hearing.
Anyway, I just wanted to share those.
No, it's good to hear. No, I said it's good to hear. It's good to share that, because that's what I'm hearing everywhere, is that it's not as big as what we're hearing on the media. Imagine that. The media is spinning this a different direction than everyone else is seeing. Now, people will say, yeah, but I'm seeing doctors and nurses on these mainstream media channels. They're talking to us. Well, of course, if you want to bolster your career and you want to build yourself up and look really important, you have to toe the line. And that's how you get on mainstream media.
Yep. Right. The main stories that they're running with, that one doctor, the woman, that was turned out to be a total fraud. There was another one where this nurse was crying, saying that they didn't have masks and everything. And in the hospital, it went viral. It was on CBS News. And then the hospital came out later and said, oh, she hasn't worked for us for over a year. So they're running with these ridiculous, heart-wrenching stories.
Sounds like the incubator story from Kuwait.
Hey, I have a question for you if you're still there with us, sir.
He's there.
Yeah.
How is she supposed to test negative? What are they doing to supposedly treat your mother so that she would test negative twice?
Yeah, and let me just add to that.
I'm not sure what medication she's on. She is on an antibiotic, but that she's being treated for a UTI. So, and she no longer even has the 100-degree temperature she had when they admitted her. But I don't know all the medications they're giving her, but I do know that they had to wait a week, they told me, and they're going to test her again. And I don't know how she's supposed to come back negative. She'd get another false positive. Like, everybody's probably got the coronavirus in them, left over from, and I'm sure she took her vaccines. In the assisted living places, they all get that. And
shot, yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how she's going to get out of there. I feel like she's in prison, and I think she does too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The same thing with all the.
She's got to test negative twice.
Jeez.
Well, I'm reasonably sure, unless there is some emergency act or some other thing that can specifically be cited, that you can walk in there and take her out. I'm reasonably sure, and it depends on the state too. They can't impede your freedom in most cases. But there have been a lot of.
Well, I'd have to fight off the rest of my siblings to do that.
Well, in that case, it's probably.
And my mom is not very. Yeah, my mom wouldn't go for that. She watches Fox News, and she pretty much trusts authority, believes in her doctors, and she can't walk. She's in a wheelchair, so there's no getting her out of there. I've talked about it a few times. If I could come get her out of there, I would. But I don't think that's going to happen. But she could be in there a couple of weeks. I can't see her being in there longer than that. But yeah, it's I don't know how she's going to test negative if she tested positive for it and doesn't have anything. They say she could get more false positives. So I don't know how they do that.
Isn't the real message here that you have firsthand observation of someone in your family who's in their 80s who had an additional medical condition, which in your 80s could be serious, the UTI, and they tested positive for COVID, but they're going to be fine? I mean, that is not the definition of a dangerous virus that will kill everyone.
But she doesn't have COVID. I'm sure there is, at least in my opinion, there is probably a bad flu going around that some people are getting very sick, and people with compromised immune systems are dying from it like every year. Right. And she doesn't have that.
Right. But when you have an old person in the hospital like that, you have them on antibiotics. That could help with the UTI, but it's not good for a whole system. They might be whacking her with x-rays every day, chest x-rays. Who knows if they're giving her antivirals? All of these things adding up could kill you.
Yeah, and the UTI would definitely cause a fever. So, I mean, if you have a UTI and you've got a fever, then that's what any sane doctor is going to diagnose. They're not going to just jump and say, oh, no, it's corona, unless you're in the state of affairs we are now.
Right.
So, all right, well, I do hope she gets well fast. I'm sure everybody does as well. And maybe call us back next week and give us an update.
I will. Thanks.
All right.
You guys have a good night.
Call.
You too. All right, let's go to the...
Good to hear things firsthand.
Yeah, I think so too. 208, you're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. What's up?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Go ahead.
I like to mimic things with, like you guys previously said, with movies and TV, since they obviously pre-planned all these things. It sounds like this is literally the plot out of Batman Begins, where you have a chemical contamination of water, of the air, which we already know, and then you have a device that is causing those chemicals to react, which is 5G.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that movie.
No, definitely familiar with it, and you're right. I mean, it does kind of play the same tune. There's something that's being activated by the frequency being put out, you're saying?
And it's very distinct in the movie that they said that it's a compound that has to be absorbed by the lungs, and they call out that you have to have a microwave emitter, which vaporizes the water. So those two things, and it's like, seems pretty
identical, huh?
But that's also the end of They Live, too, right? At the end of They Live, they got to take out the broadcasting signal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing I had was, it sounds like this is going towards the plot as well as the Demolition Man, where there's a society with no crime, and they have all these social engineering things where people don't shake hands anymore. There's no money. People are tracked with chips in their hands, and there's real-time audio-visual surveillance 100% of the time.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, and they even have citizens telling on each other now. I know in my city, I don't know about your guys's, but the front of the local newspaper website says right on there in a huge bulletin point, here's the phone number you call to report anybody having any social gatherings or outside, not on essential business, or a business being run that's not considered essential. So you got everybody tattling on everybody. So long, I guess, snitches get stitches.
Well, that's your social engineering right there, man.
Right. So, anything else, caller?
And there's one thing that's in the movie that Sylvester Stallone says is that they have no toilet paper in the future.
Uh-huh.
He doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells.
No, he does not.
All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate the call. Let's go.
Mitchell from Australia sent me the meme I just put up there. Holidaying in regional NSW is against the law. Report holidaymakers to Crime Stoppers.
What is that? New South Wales or something?
New South Wales, yeah.
Wow. So anybody that's in there, basically, if you go there with your family and you're staying on the beach in a beach house or something, you're going to get reported, correct?
Yep.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And like I said, I'm just in a little town here in Merced. But my wife and I went for a walk both yesterday and today, which I guess is not allowed as of right now. I don't really know. I'm hoping that we get stopped by some police, but we haven't yet. So far they haven't objected.
Are you bringing your camera on your cool little device to live stream it?
No, you mean my phone?
Your phone on your little gimbal thing.
Just to video my walk? No, but I probably should.
No, when you see the police come and live stream getting arrested. Come on, Jeran, team player.
I will. Believe me, I've got my phone. Right. It's ready to go. Like I said, I'm hoping that they come talk to me.
Make sure you got it on the Bryant gimbal.
Right.
Yeah.
Did we just take this one or not? 256.
Film landscape, please.
Who's this? Yes, I know. Otherwise, it's just fake. It's crisis actor footage. 256. What's up?
Holy crap! I got on the show. I'm gonna change the whole lineup for tonight. I'm not talking about this stupid COVID shit. Sorry for the language. Crow. This is specifically for you. Actually, for all of you guys, because you all like to look up at the stars. Just tonight, I've seen 3 what I'm calling wandering stars moving through the sky, horizon to horizon. One moving from northwest to southeast, and the other 2 were moving from west-northwest to the east. So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the skies. I'm up here in Maryland, actually about a mile as the crow flies, no pun intended, from Harper's Ferry, West Virginia. But thinking about the stars, Crow, I had a question for you. The planets being called wandering stars, I have a little problem with that, because if they're really wandering, would we be able to track them year after year? I'm just wondering what your thoughts are, if you think that calling planets planets is just another layer of the deception.
Yeah, the whole idea of planets, they're going to attribute it back to the Greeks, and I guess I don't have a problem with wandering star. Basically, they're saying it's a light in the sky, but this one doesn't move like the rest of them. So maybe wandering isn't the best. You got to realize it's coming out of Greek, and when you translate, you're going to lose meaning almost in any language. But the planets are a hell of a thing, because if you look at, say, Jupiter, you can see these little things that look like moons, and sometimes you can even see what looks like the shadow of that little moon on the face of the planet. And the whole idea of this was used to leverage the idea that we're on a spinning ball doing all the crazy things. But I think I kind of lost the thread. What was the main part of the question? Just whether or not wandering planets was an apt description?
Well, it's just the planets are described as wandering stars. Like you say, stars that don't move like the other stars. But if we're able to track them for hundreds of years at a time, aren't they just moving in a pattern unique to themselves? Like, it's not necessarily that they're moving, obviously they're moving differently from the other stars, but they're still going in patterns that can be tracked. Whereas what I just witnessed tonight, unless it's some sort of technology, which I'm sure they have and they're not telling us about, that was a star that was literally, and I have the biblical worldview on this, a star literally just broke rank and, hooked it off in another direction.
Okay, I know where you're coming from. I know exactly what you're about. I understand what you're getting after here. Any given night, my wife and I go out, we can find those lights moving in the sky. That's technology. My guess is there's some form of drone. Here's a couple things you can do. If you get binoculars, and it only takes about a night before you get good with them, and you can easily track things through the sky, you can get a little more information that way. But if you took like a yardstick and held it at arm's length, you can tell if it's moving in exactly a straight line. A lot of these things that we're seeing now don't. And not only that, the speed is not constant. And you don't really realize this when you're saying, hey, there's this weird thing moving in the sky. But when you zero in and say, is it moving straight? Is it slowing down? But here's another thing. Almost all these things that we're trying to start to classify as likely drones, there's no running light. It's just a light, like a white light, but it's not a constant brightness. And quite often it dims down to almost anything, and quite often it goes way, way brighter. If you start to pay attention for these little things that I'm pointing out, and if you do get a yardstick, that's a handy tool, because if you hold it at arm's length, it gives you a flat edge, and you can determine if there's any real deviance in the path of what you're seeing. In my view, what you're witnessing is in our atmosphere. In my view, it's human tech, and I think my best guess, it's some kind of drone-like device.
No doubt it's in our atmosphere. And you actually, just with that explanation, just eliminated the second two. The first one I saw, that sucker was moving straight, fast, solid, the whole horizon. But anyway, I'll get off the phone. You guys get back to it. Dave, I did want to point out somebody else in my area is the first person I've met, I know of that's in the area that's awake. I put in the Porta-John. I'm a commercial electrician. I put in the Porta-John, COVID is a hoax. And somebody went in back behind me underneath it and said, wrote on there, if you want to know the truth about COVID, go to stoplookthink.com.
Wow.
Wow.
There you go, Dave. All right.
You made the wall, man.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. That ain't my site.
Yeah, Dave doesn't have any idea what that is.
All right. It's better than for a good time called.
True. Yeah. 508, you're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. You get about... Holy smokes.
Happy purge, gentlemen. So I wanted to bring up that if I understand it right, these elitists, they go to school as children to learn Hegelian dialectic. Is that right?
Depends on who you're talking about, really. I mean, there's so many levels to this kind of thing. If you're talking about the sort of people who end up as presidents and CEOs and stuff like that, a lot of times they're Rhodes Scholars and things like that. They go to Harvard or Yale and become part of these little secret organizations, and I'm sure they learn a lot of crazy stuff behind closed doors while they're lying naked in a casket whacking off.
Well, the claim is they're all profiled by Tavistock means, which were originally developed by Sigmund Freud, the Freud dude. And so, yeah, I think the simple answer would be it's quite likely if someone is born into a family or a position where it's clear they're going to play on the world stage, I'd say hell yes all day. They learn a lot of things the rest of us don't. We're busy being taught the world's spinning faster than a bullet.
I mean, that just pays homage to the idea of how much farther ahead in the mental game that these people really are and the advantage they have over us. I mean, if they come along and they devise a plan of 30 years, 100 years, 5 years in advance, or whatever it is, and at one point all right, folks, we got to knock out their communication. We got to knock out their internet. How do we do it? Why don't we just convince them to do it themselves? And they spread a rumor about 5G, and now all of a sudden you got the people themselves knocking out their own communications, and it's just how advanced and how much ahead are they? And it turns out, we're in the purge, and it's like a video game level status. They're laughing at us. This is a game to them, folks. It is sick and incredible at the same time. What a time to be alive.
Well, I guess I'm not sure that I'm all the way down with the 5G assessment, but I'm with you all day long, and I've said for a long time that you're dealing with minds that are many magnitudes of intelligence ahead, but they're magnitudes of intelligence on the dark side, and that's pretty much provable. Every major spiritual tradition in this world that's ever lasted was based on the idea that life matters, truth matters, the light of day matters. Clearly what we're seeing doesn't fit those descriptions. Yeah, they're ahead. Yeah, they've worked out a lot of things probably centuries in advance. But this game is not over. This deal is not done. And I'll point out another thing. Some people feel like this place we live is almost like a living organism in itself. If that's true, then a lot of this stuff going on would almost be like an actual real virus. At what point does the earth get tired of that and simply wash it away? At no point am I really willing to accept that this is a done deal. Not till I'm looking at the other dude in the corner, and we're the last two, anyhow.
Totally agree. Yeah, they're going to have to prove to me. Go ahead. You got about 10 seconds.
I also, I just appreciate everything you guys do, and I'll get off the phone. You guys are amazing. Thanks for all the good work, folks.
Sure.
All right, thanks. Don't go anywhere, guys. We got another half hour of your calls. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Do you have any of these symptoms? Night cramps in the hands and feet. Your arms and legs often go to sleep. On short walks, do your legs get aches and pains? Is your memory worse than it used to be? Ankles that swell late in the day? Has your blood pressure increased lately? If you answered yes to even one of these questions, you may have early warning signs of arterial blockages. Your body is saying that it is time to take Extendivite. These are not the normal signs of aging. They are the warning signs that accompany blocked arteries. Get your Extendivite today. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822. Or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find us on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWER to get $10 off your first box. As a special bonus, we will include our #1 rated Lipo3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. Whatever your diet plans are, start with us at faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWER.
We exist in the security and comfort of our worlds. Paved paths, lights, and manicured lawns give us peace of mind that our world has been tamed, and we are its master. But other worlds exist on the edge of our sight. On the edge of our awareness, the shadows move. The woods fill with the unblinking eyes of the nightmares our ancestors warned us about. Some of us have stumbled into these forgotten realms, whether on purpose or completely by surprise. I'm Brent Thomas. Join the Paranormal Portal Friday and Saturday nights from 10 p.m. to midnight Pacific Standard Time as we journey into the world of the paranormal phenomena.
Enter the Paranormal Portal if you dare. Real people, real radio.
Initiating the truth frequency.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
All right, welcome back. You're listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Real quick, let's do the support methods. You can support this show through Patreon, patreon.com/Jeranism. Please sign up for Crow and Jason's show. You get both hours by signing up at Crow 777 Radio. That's CRROW777radio.com. And also to support Dave, you can go to patreon.com/DITRH or get the app that everyone should have. If you don't have it yet, I don't know what's wrong with you.
The Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. And the subscription is $1 a month. But if you just want to get the app and not do the subscription, you could snooze the pop-ups for 30 days at a time in settings. So no issues there.
Right. And also, if you're not subscribed to Secrets of Saturn, you got to get on that too. Jason, tell them about that.
Well, we've been doing live streams every week. Every Sunday, Crow and I do one from 5 to 6 Central. And every Wednesday, 8 to 10 Central, I do one with Wayne McCroy with several other guests, usually different topics. Just trying to expand out the work I do with Crow on that. I've got my first viral video, and in fact, the one I did with Dr. Andy Kaufman. It's at 162,000 views already. It's within the past couple of days. I think I put this up 6 days ago, if I remember correctly, something like that, maybe a week. Getting a lot of talk on that, where he breaks down.
Wasn't that up on Crow's channel for a while?
Without video. I did a PDF, so people would need to get the copy. Jason ran video.
Gotcha. Right. I was invited to a private conference call, and then Andy asked us to break it down and to disseminate to our audiences. So I put it on my channel because my channel is smaller and I have a lot less fear of anything happening to it than if we put something on Crow's channel. So we did audio and then put a PDF of the slide presentation that he had accompanying it. We did that on Crow 777 Radio.
Gotcha. So definitely.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to add some comedy. So I sit down today and I get a copyright notice from YouTube. And this is the 4th copyright notice on the Flat Earth Man when he came on and he rewrote all that music to sound live and be for Crow 777. So this went on for months, and CD Baby wouldn't release even when he asked him to, wouldn't release. So finally they cleared the deck. So I sit down today, CD Baby put another copyright on this same clip. So I wrote, you know what? The guy who wrote this music is in the clip. He changed it all. I entered it. I said, CD Baby has already copyrighted me 3 times, and I sent it. I went up, got a drink, came back down, sat down, and there was a thing. Congratulations, CD Baby has released your copyright. And I thought, there's no way a human being even read that quick enough.
Right. Well, I'm glad it got released. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that all over the place. And, of course, YouTube's methods are terrible for handling any kind of copyright. Let's get back to the...
They think me on my own song, by the way, a while ago.
Oh, I don't...
CD Baby?
No, just YouTube in general, because my one tune I use for opening and closing, Angel's Song, it's a song I wrote and put out on an EP a few years ago. They pinged me for it, and I was like, hey, that's mine. That's me. I wrote it. I'm singing it. Playing the guitar.
They're just surfing. They're just looking, to see if no one challenges. They're just adding to the database.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot too. I mean, I'll get copyright strikes on this channel because whenever B.O.B's song plays, B.O.B. copyrights it, even though he told me he never would. I don't know. It says on behalf of B.O.B. or whatever. But what's funny is that then it says monetization is going towards him, which is hilarious because as soon as it clears, then it comes back not eligible for monetization. So I don't know why it was eligible until I cleared it. Just funny when I see things like that.
Isn't B.O.B. the guy who wrote the song with Lunar Wave in it?
Yeah. That's the one.
And yeah, I don't know I forgot the name of the company that Empire Music or something on behalf of B.O.B. is what I get all the time now. So anyway, if you heard the music coming back from hour 2, chopping in and out, that was me trying to avoid that, but who knows if it actually worked. Let's go back to the phones. 253, you're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. 253, what's up? Yes.
Hello?
Hello, what's up?
Hi. This is Carrie. I've been to quite a few of the conferences.
Hey, Carrie.
And hi, I'm still traveling. I'm still traveling in the RV.
Sweet. The levitating woman, Carrie.
Yes. I'd like to levitate right off of here right now. I've got to Seattle. It's been really rough here because there's not a whole lot of free places. There's no BLM land. If I was still out in the desert, I'd be okay. But I was called to come here. My sister then were going to go on vacation, but she's changed her mind because of her condition she has a lung condition, and I have to hold my tongue. I'm staying here, really nowhere else to go, but something sent me here that I have to stay here. Like a lot of us, why do we see and they can't see?
If we knew the answer to that.
Yeah, you could ask the question, how come that person can draw really well, or why is that violinist so good? I can't do that. I think it's just a thing about people. Everyone has their talents.
They're walking like total zombies. I can see the anger welled up even if I'm softly bringing something up that it's strange. They're so connected to all their drugs, all their medicine that they take, and the TV, and you can't draw them away.
Amazing.
Are they hypnotized? Is there something deeper going on with all these people walking around like zombies and they can't even look at me?
Did you ever see did you ever see the movie Men in Black 3, where they're going to have the rocket launch and they show the family, they're all sitting on yellow things, holding yellow coffee cups, and they're all there like deers caught in headlights. Yeah, it's like a spell. It's like it's like having your brain scrambled, kind of.
Hypnotized, fluoridated, mind controlled. It's a whole combination. It's just amazing. Hey, what do you guys, Crow and Jason, when you are out and about and you see people wearing face masks, what do you think about them?
I feel sorry because what I see is victims. That's what I see. And I can remember there was a time in my life when I very well probably would have been doing that. And it's almost, people get mad at children or babies forgetting the fact that they were both of those things, or, and so what I see is a person who truthfully, if I would have walked the 100,000 miles in their shoes, would I be doing anything different than they're doing now? That's the way I try to look at it. So if you look at it that way, then you start to think, what can be done here? How can you help a person that's being victimized?
Right.
That's how, it's a coping mechanism. It's not easy.
I can just imagine what's going through their heads. I mean, they're wearing masks. I'm not wearing a mask, and a lot of people aren't wearing masks.
Fear.
And they're just in total fear, and it's just awful. It's just awful.
I'm actually shocked that they left their house.
Sometimes I'm a douchebag and I'll edge near them if I'm in a grocery store or something, just to kind of mess with them a little bit.
That's pretty douchey.
It is, I know.
You're going to be sorry when you get your first heart attack you got to deal with.
when Paige and I are walking down the sidewalk and there's someone coming our way, we stay on the sidewalk expecting to pass them on the sidewalk, but they walk out into the road. And a lot of people are afraid to even look at you and say hello because the germs could fly in their mouth if they do.
Right. They got to keep their eyes down. And same thing for us. We have a nice walk path that we take. And if anybody's coming on the other thing, we just keep walking. Even if we try to get to one side of the path, they will purposely walk out into the dirt.
We should revive Hands Across America. Remember that publicity stunt from the 80s?
Right. Yep.
Is that like the Coca-Cola commercial?
But now you can do it with a third of the number of people because you have to have 6 feet in between everybody.
You can use ring.
Thank you to Lisa Marie and Ted Summer for the super chats. Ted said, "Great show, Jeran, Dave, Jason, and Crow." Let's go to the next caller. Do I want to venture this one? All right, we'll do it real quick. I don't know who you are. You're a blocked caller. I'm ready to hang up on you if you're just going to drop a bunch of N-bombs or something. Go ahead. Blocked caller. Going once, going twice. Sorry, you're gone. All right, 360, you're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. I think that's Dottie.
It is. Yay. Remember my number. How special.
I do. Well, until somebody else calls from the 360, then we got problems.
True. There's a couple people around here, but it doesn't matter. I'm the best one here. But no, so... I still deliver for Amazon, and it's been just the weirdest just so weird experiencing life right now because people are they're so awkward. Like, nobody will take a package from my hands, and they just, like Dave was saying, people will walk out into the street just to get away from you. And, yeah, it's really, really weird. But the weirdest thing today I noticed is that more and more people are wearing masks, but more and more people are wearing just like homemade random things or like scarves.
I love that.
Surgeon General started that.
Yeah, did a YouTube video with 100 million views or something.
Yeah, but I gotta ask, are you seeing like any people that have a clue of any kind, or is it everybody that's gone to the dark side of the moon?
It's getting to where it's kind of weird to see someone not wearing a mask. Like for about a week, there was almost nobody on the streets, but now people are kind of starting to come back out. But everybody who's coming back out has something on their face, and there's a very, very small percentage who are wearing like probably acceptable kinds of masks, and everyone else, I swear, they're just wearing scarves and bandanas around their face. And yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, if it keeps going like that, I'm going to be like, oh, well, I guess the flat earthers will be easy to peg in a crowd because we'll be the only ones without a mask on.
I saw guys today wearing full respirator masks, the kind that you would wear like if you were in a car spray painting, box.
You know what's ironic about that is someone who goes to those extremes, you watch, these people are going to end up being sick from fear and just horrible thoughts in their mind and a lower kind of vibration across their whole body. And that's almost certainly part of the design in all this. And
I have a question. So Paige and I were walking down the street on the sidewalk, and it's kind of a busy, dangerous street. And a young girl was coming towards us, and when she was about 30, 40 yards away, she decided to walk across the street, where there's no walking lane, very dangerous. If she got hit by a car and killed, we could actually say that she died because of COVID-19, right?
Right.
That's true.
That's a fact.
True.
COVID-19.
You might have to use the word presumptive. I think that's popular now.
I thought Owen said it's hilarious that now, because of all this, what happens to facial recognition? Everybody wearing the mask.
You see, actually what's going on is all the bots are learning how to recognize the face with the mask.
Oh, great.
Yeah, great.
Just figuring it out, which is
no doubt, though.
Yeah. All right, anything else, Dottie?
Nope, I think that's it.
All right, thanks for calling. We'll talk to you soon. Let's go to the 619. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's
San
this?
Diego.
Hello?
What's up, San Diego?
I just wanted to give a shout out to you guys, let you guys know that you guys are awesome. You guys do an awesome job.
What part of San Diego are you in?
Just right in La Mesa area.
Nice. I grew up all around there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's really nice. It's been a little cloudy lately, but when it is nice, it's heavily chemtrailed, so very hard to see the sky and the moon and all that stuff. But I just wanted to give you some stuff that I picked up here. My uncle actually I have a lot of family in New York, and he was actually in the ICU with COVID-19. He had pneumonia. The funny thing is, though, that he had pneumonia 4 months before this whole thing happened, and they just classified it as just pneumonia. Treated him, let him go, and then when he came in again, they didn't even bother to test him. They just assumed it was COVID-19 this time. So,
wow.
And same thing. So they just, he's finally getting better now. He's soon going to be out, but there's a lot of people in my family too that I guess are feeling a little ill in New York. Nothing here, nothing on the West Coast as far as I can see so far. I have family that are doctors and nurses, and the same thing. They have regular cases that they would have had every year, and they're saying it's actually less because most people are staying home.
So are those people in your family in the city center of New York or outlying?
Queens, in Queens areas.
They're doing a big 5G rollout. I've been hearing a lot of people not feeling well in New York, and I know they've done the 5G rollout.
I heard the same thing. I've been following that, and there's a bunch of my cousins, a lot of people. Not affecting the little kids yet, but the elderly and the older. I guess maybe it has something to do with how old you are and how much pollution you have in you that affects you maybe the most. So my uncle's not the healthiest guy. He's probably the least healthiest out of the whole family, and he had pneumonia, and again, he's got pneumonia again. And they just classified it as COVID-19 and quarantined him in the hospital.
Of course. And that doesn't inflate the numbers at all.
Well, you got to wonder, there's a specific way for treating someone who has pneumonia, if you follow my line of reasoning there. So if someone comes in with pneumonia and they're COVID, are they getting the treatment that's required for a pneumonia patient?
So they tried a couple of things, and it feels like he said felt like he was a guinea pig, like he wasn't going to get out of there. He was really upset that he was saying he was most likely not going to. He didn't want to go to the hospital. He thought he wasn't going to get out. And he was, because we kept having conversations with him over the phone because we couldn't go in there. They just said that basically that they're experimenting things on him, and he got worse. He got really bad until he got better, and now he's doing much better. Yeah. And they tried that. I think that the chloroquine, that one you guys were talking about, something hydroxychloroquine, something. I don't know, some thing they tried on him. So that's about that corona. And then another thing that I actually had a question for Darth, and maybe you guys will all know about the app. So basically, the model, the way the flat Earth model shows, the sun, when it goes to winter for us here, it makes a bigger circle. Does that make sense? Does it go faster?
So the way I explain it, and again, the optics in the sky, as Crow always says, we can only say that they're lights. If you
but wouldn't it make sense? It makes a bigger circle, right? It goes a bigger diameter on the outside ring when it does on the inside.
Right,
if it covers the same year and the same time, doesn't it go faster? Or let
me explain why and how it could go faster. This is just my opinion. If you held a flashlight and you pointed the beam 5 feet out from you on the floor and you spun around at a specific rotational speed, that's we'll call that the Tropic of Cancer, and now maintain that speed and point it 10 feet out. You're still spinning at the same speed, but that focus point of light, which is the sun that we see, is now moving faster because it's making a bigger circle. That's how I see it working. There's maybe other explanations.
Can you measure that spotlight moving faster?
Well, yeah, and we've actually shown video before that a sunset in New Zealand or Australia is much faster, meaning that here in the north, when the sun sets, we still get plenty of light after that sun sets. It could be an hour that you still have light that you could be out and about. Whereas in Australia, when the sun sets, it gets dark extremely fast. Same thing with sunrise, is it'll be dark, and then all of a sudden here comes the sun. Here in the north, it's much, much different, where before the sun rises in the morning, you get light for, during the summer, an hour and a half before the sun even rises.
Right.
So there could be a speed difference. And again, it's just like a hand of a clock. You could say, well, does the inside of the hand move faster than the outside of the hand? Well, the hand's moving at the same speed. The entire hand moves as one thing. It moves in 24 hours. So does the outside of the hand move faster than the inside of the hand? Right?
I mean, technically it does, but I see your point. I think I see your point. That makes sense. And then another thing, so I was kind of making some observations, and on some clear days here, we can actually see both the moon and the sun in the daylight. And based on your app, when I look at it, it looks like the moon. So I see it to the west of me on the horizon coming up, and on the app, it looks like it's directly, like, say, in a noon position over Africa, or the tip of Africa, northern tip of Africa.
So let me when you're looking at the app, where you see the sun and the moon, you're looking at that from a top-down point of view. So wherever you see the sun, it's noon at that place. So I'm on the East Coast in the USA, and at 6 a.m. when the sun is rising, it's noon in Central Africa. But I'm not seeing a sun that far away. I'm seeing a sun maybe 100 miles away, maybe 50 miles away. The point that I see, so that's in my personal atmospheric dome, and it'll rise and set on that dome. If you go into the app, hit the archive button next to the featured video, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, I put a video up about how that works, and it's an illustration that clearly shows how you would see that and how somebody in Australia could see the sun set south of the Tropic of Capricorn, when in reality the sun isn't the real sun. The source is over the Tropic of Capricorn, and a person on the ground will see it south of the Tropic of Capricorn. So again, the optics of the sky are very complex. So check that video out, watch it a few times, and watch the other videos that follow it too. It'll really help you understand.
But it's good. You know what? It's good someone's challenging what you're doing to that level. That's people thinking about things.
Yeah, absolutely. But just remember the sun that we see, like when I see the sun rise here over the water, it's like where Montauk is, Crow, and I'm in Connecticut, so that's 65 miles away. So that means if I'm seeing it rise right near Montauk, I'm seeing it set 65 miles on the other side. So that's 130 miles of that the sun travels in a full day. From my point of view, that's what I believe that we see, and we can do these experiments with little mini domes and a light above it, where it works. We can replicate it. Again, these are working theories. It makes a lot of sense. We really don't know what's going on up in the sky.
Doing the best we can, but I do want to say to the San Diego caller, if you go over to Casadero there and you go into La Posta, please have a rolled taco for me and tell me how good the hot sauce is.
All right. We have only 3 minutes left, so we got to be quick. There's a ton of calls we're not going to get to tonight. But how about 602? One question only. Shoot.
Hey, guys. Hello?
What's up? Shoot.
Hey, yeah, I was on Amanda Vollmer's page, Yummy Mummy, Apothecary Theory or whatever. And she had this post on there about this underground war, how it's being won by the white hats. Are you guys familiar with this?
Yeah, thanks for the call. That's a Q thing, and I haven't seen evidence of that. Other than Dave, you want to comment on that? You're in New York.
The tents in Central Park are a phenomenon. Jason, I think not Jason Goodman, some other guy went and was trying to film them. You can't get anywhere near them, and there's these tents that are like a whole tent city, and there's very little action. So, are they housing patients? I don't think so. What are they doing? I have no idea. Are they rescuing children from underground tunnels? Well, there are tunnels that go from Pier 5 supposedly through Central Park and over to the Clinton Foundation. But again, we have no proof of any of this. So something strange is going on there. Don't know what it is.
Well, I would point out another thing. When a group is called White Hats, you should already be questioning the authenticity, because typically groups of people have real names.
Not just our saviors. All right, 304. One question only. Quick.
Oh, wow. I was just listening primarily. What is the, let me come up with something real quick. The Q thing, I thought it was a bunch of crap, and then I know some things that made you go, huh? And then the whole thing with Jeff Sessions being a secret agent and mole, and they're putting him out to the dogs to lure in the enemy, and I thought that was crap. And then when he got fired, I thought, well, that just proved to me the whole Q thing was crap. So what is your all's take on that, since you just mentioned
you had it right in the first 5 seconds. You had it right in the first 5 seconds. It's a bunch of crap.
That's what I think it is. Dave's still got 1% in him. Dave, what's it going to take to bring you down to 0?
Jeran, you can't rule anything out. I think Crow even has a certain fraction of 1% in him too.
Actually, not on this, I don't, and I wish I could tell you why, but I can tell you there are Q sites out there that are being run by hackers. It has nothing to do with anything that's real.
Fine, I'm at 0. Good night, everybody.
That's all it took. We got Dave
some
on.
explaining to do.
All right, guys, that was a fun show. I appreciate everybody being on. Appreciate you guys joining us. And Crow, thanks. You're welcome anytime, man. Same thing,
All right.
Jason.
Thanks, man.
As
Thank
always.
you.
And Dave, any final words before we head out?
No, that's it. I just encourage people to do critical thinking and try. If you have sleeping people in your life, just ask questions. Just keep posing questions to them instead of trying to jam stuff down their throats. So, why do you think the news is faking footage or whatever you want to say? Why do you think no one's seeing people at these hospitals? Just keep trying, because that's all we have. If we give up, they win, and that's kind of what the Q thing is doing. It gets people just to sit back and do nothing.
It's a steam release. It's a steam release, so everyone can make like a baby and head out.
Right.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and